And if they do, it doesn't matter.
And I played it, and I was like,
Because
I don't even like Dark Souls.
Yeah.
I recognize that Dark Souls games
no,
are good, but they're just not to my taste.
Yeah, I have no problem like trying to make a Soulsborne type of game, but again, it has to be like there has to be that level of craft and care to it to make it like not like bullshit difficult and like, you know, have its systems.
But it's just also there's just a whole ton of them. Like that's what I've been noticing the most saturating the market right now. Like, cause like there's FPSs everywhere, sure, still, but it's nowhere near as bad.
It's nowhere near as bad now
as it was for a while. I mean, obviously,
the only game I played
battle royales are everywhere, but they're not saturating the single player market. Obviously, like there's still the separate market, but the single player market is just all Soulsborne games.
Like trying to make like uber difficult games and stuff, like trying to do Dark Souls.
The only game I played that I enjoyed that was a Souls-like game was Jedi Fallen Order, and I don't really know why. I guess I just like Star Wars.
Was it even like based on like Dark Souls? Or
yes. Yes.
It's very heavily like.
I can easily say that it was based on like a Soulsborne game because I just finished replaying it yesterday.
But it's more. I think when I think of Soulsborne game, I think of like the really.
Well, it's more based off of like something maybe along the lines of not Ghost of Tsushima, Sekiro. Because it's more based on like getting up close and personal and parrying and blocking.
I'm more talking about like the idea of a Soulsborne game being like the games are just like uber difficult stuff where it's like it's
Fallen Order is really difficult.
Yeah, it is.
Really.
Yes.
Also it has that concept that the first time I ever saw the concept was in Souls, so maybe it's been done before, but it's this thing where like you have this whole world of enemies that you fight. And when you kill them, they're kind of gone until you go to like a save point that's in very specific parts of a map.
In Fallen Order, you have a place where you can meditate.
Honestly, that's something that's done in like a lot of just RPGs in general. Because it's a thing with like respawn. It's just that, you know, there's just more to it.
Is that an RPG thing? Because I noticed that in Kingdom Hearts. It does a similar thing.
It's more for like action RPGs where like. So you don't power level or like just easily grind, at least not until like when they feel like you should be able to grind.
I feel like they were doing it just to keep you from grinding.
Yeah. Can't get out here in
Which
time.
is exactly what I was trying to do.
Oh, just made it, okay. Just for electrified again. What is this?
But yeah,
that's an interesting concept that it's like
it
came from like RPGs because that's obviously like more of a Japanese or at least action RPGs might have been more of a Japanese
Dark Souls and Soulsborne games are technically actually they are just
that's what I'm saying.
They are action RPGs. It's just that, you know, they're more focused on like the difficulty and overcoming the challenges. Like it's not there is grinding, yes, but it's also like you don't have to grind per se. It's just it makes the fights easier.
I mean, you need to get
but you still have to be
collect those souls.
You still have to be skilled enough to go.
Pretty sure FromSoft is Japanese.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And
well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I was saying it was interesting.
Really
Dark Souls is Japanese.
Because it was the first time they were like, "Hey, this Japanese company is finally making a game based off of culture that they know very well."
Yeah, like their own culture. Like instead of the typical European sort of setting.
Well, I didn't want to say based off their own culture because it sounds like keep your hands off my culture.
I mean,
it's not based on it's not based on Eurocentric stuff.
It's not Euro.
It was the first one. It's not like European culture stuff, which is weird because like I haven't played Sekiro, but I want to. But Bloodborne is one of my favorite games.
Yeah, and then that's more based on like Gothic, like London and all that.
Yeah. Although I have played Nioh, thanks to DJ, which is it's not FromSoft, but it's very it's a Soulsborne game, and it's very in depth with its combat because there are like different stances you can do with different drawbacks and benefits. But there's some kind of key function.
I was not expecting DJ to give
you fight like possessed people and also yokai, which are just like Japanese demons, and it's really fucking difficult. And I got stuck at one of the boss fights because you need to be able to light something like a kind of torch in the boss's room, and the boss is literally just a gigantic blob of like cursed water that spits boats at you, and that's not a joke. That's not a joke. It spits boats at you while other smaller enemies exactly like it come after you spitting pieces of board and like swords at you because they're just a part of the amalgamation that is their body. And it really fucking pisses me off because like their weak point is very hard to hit because they have a very specific window where you can attack them that actually will do a decent amount of damage without having to put yourself in the line of fire. Because there are several of them, and also you're having to worry about boats flying at you from the fucking boss! So DJ, thank you for giving me Neo for the PS5.
I was saying I wasn't expecting.
But I don't
to
think
do
I'm
that
ever going to get
because,
to the second game.
Because the way we found Neo, because like I had seen videos of it online, and I didn't think it was very popular. I still don't know if it is, but I just remember telling.
It is.
I remember telling
it's
DJ.
Up there. It's one of the more well-known like Soulsborne attempts.
Yeah, I was like DJ, you should get this, and he was like, oh, is it good? I was like, yeah, it should be. I've seen it. It seems like good for people that play Dark Souls and stuff. I just didn't know you were gonna give it to him as a gift, but then it makes sense because Josh plays like Dark Souls stuff.
Well, it was the PS5 version.
Oh, was
that
it?
was there.
It was. He
So-
gave me a collection of like, I guess remasters.
I don't know.
It was just Neo 1 and 2 or something.
Yeah, it was Neo 1 and 2.
Yeah, they would be remastered because they came out on They came out on PS4 first,
Yeah.
so it's like
It was like a
it's a
PS4
re-release
game.
on PS5 that's like properly upscaled and all that.
And I was
Because
just
they've
like,
been doing
dude,
that.
this is epic.
I'm so glad I'm finally being able to talk after about 45 minutes.
Look,
Why haven't you?
either way,
Like,
bottom.
For
Well,
the
I
game
don't like
design.
talking while other people are talking, so...
You
Yeah.
just
And it's
either
been
way,
absolute chaos.
Either way, I'll say that the bottom line with that whole discussion is just that like industry follows trends. There's just some I just don't like more than others because it's just like there's just some that just feel like the way they're done now is like creativity is very stifled because of just what's popular.
Well, where I want.
I don't know who
what
this
I wanna
man
say
is, but
I
I
don't
hope he
like
dies
the-
in a fire of cancer and brimstone.
I don't like talking over people either, but I also never notice whenever there's like an opening for me because I wait for an opening and then somebody else will say something. I'm like, oh fuck, I missed it. And I feel like people talk over me more easily.
No, I really do not think that that is an issue that we have worried about during the entire
Oh, enlarged
history
what?
that we've been a channel.
Oh wait, I think it's like
Change him back. Does he want to be a real boy?
we're going to enlarge ourselves. Here we go.
Oh.
Oh, it's a giant Clank. Yeah.
Oh.
Dude, he got-
FIFO, fuck you!
Dude, he got
I am
the
a
thigh
giant.
gap.
Holy
now,
shit!
Now let's affect the terrain, shall we? Okay,
see
now,
how-
okay,
what I
you
was gonna
guys-
say to bookend that
Yeah,
conversation
yeah,
a
you
little
can
bit was,
continue, yeah.
Wait a minute, can I say this first? Did you
What?
see how his legs got big first, out of anything else?
yeah.
Did you see him with that thigh gap big?
Dude's got an impossible thigh gap. People hate him.
This
Other
is the
robots-
ideal male body. You might not like it.
Also, I like how
Doctors hate
his
him.
head got bigger, but it was
Mechanics
so
hate him.
understated, or it was overstated how much his head got bigger, but it didn't look like it got bigger. So it's
Yeah, that's just the funny bit.
But to sort of bookend that conversation, I think,
what the fuck?
yeah, clearly at any given time there's gonna be certain gaming trends, but I think at this point in time, I mean, we can say that creativity is being stifled. We can say that there's like types of games that aren't being made, but honestly, more than any other time in history, every single type of game is being made.
Yeah,
More than ever.
No, and that's fine.
Right
it's,
now.
just, it's just that,
So
like
it's like I don't see like.
I
I think
it's
it's
just-
a difference.
just-
I think
it's
it's a
more
difference
of a-
between like creatively inspired versus just copying because it's like there's formulaic and then there's inspired. Because you could say like, well, this game is kind of ripping off like
yeah, you could,
it's a mascot platformer where you play as a furry animal because that's like a thing that's been happening a lot. But this game
Yeah,
had
like
so much.
ukulele.
This game had so much inspired behind it that it wanted to become more of its own thing, despite jumping on that same like status quo.
Yeah, it's basically that, like, yes, you're right that all these types of games are being made in the first place, but not all of them are being made with a full creative inspiration because it's almost because some genres, especially in FPSs and all that, there's less like full like inspiration to innovate per se.
Well, I think
Like, think about how much
try
more,
something,
like-
or try something more that's more out of the norm because there's still the norm that's just like the basic template of the FPS, but just we'll add like mechs, or we'll add like these weird fractal things, or we'll add
absolutely stole from this game.
we'll add things to the side that seem to enhance the experience, but it's more the core experience is still the same: hold a gun and shoot and hold fire in that.
Well, I think
It's just
a
that, like-
side effect of the battle royale game and stuff like that is that I don't think the formula, the basic Oh wow. Oh.
I'm saying like think
I
about
think
like,
the basic formula of an FPS is actually being left alone a lot now. Like a few years ago, yeah, every fucking single game was the same FPS, especially a decade ago. But now it's like, when you're making like I don't feel like it's nearly as bad as it was.
Well, I mean, like, it's more so.
Well, I mean, most games are FPSs, but that's easy to do.
The chaos fucking returns.
Well, I'm saying like
Josh,
it's-
you cannot talk.
I'm saying like it's like there's more games than ever. There's more games than ever, but think about how like much more toxic the environments are, how worse it is for the people that make the games. Also, like a lot of games, like for one type of game, like games where you explore and adventure games, that would be a really important thing to do, exploring. But for a lot of games now, they boil their world building down and their lore down to just collectibles and little notes that you find in certain places.
It's
like
less about,
there's so much less world building through actual effort made through the game.
Or if you want to make a narrative type game, then you come back or something. If you want to make a narrative type game, you have to make the entire like experience focus on the narrative, like a cinematic narrative, rather than having some gameplay to it. Because like that's the thing with narrative type games, and that's stuff like say like Sony went out saying that they're going to do is that they're going to focus primarily on making stuff that's like cinematic experience, like The Last of Us 2 and stuff like that, where it's more about just making the cinematic narrative an almost interactive movie than the actual sort of like game behind it. And so again, that's creativity. Because what if you want to make a very cinematic experience, but still have an interesting game behind it, have actual game to it?
Yeah,
like,
I think
it's the issue where like it's becoming that because it's like it's mainly in AAA. Like there's a lot of like issues with corporate intervention, like stuff has to be dialed back, but sometimes stuff's dialed back way too far because it needs to be like meeting certain criteria, following certain trends, like that. That's just the thing where it's like, yes, a lot of games are being made now, the different types, but there are some genres that are just stuck in this limbo because they're not allowed to try anything different. Like say, want to have different types of guns and stuff that works around the sort of first-person perspective. You don't get a lot of that. It's still the same like typical like shotguns and like regular like assault rifles and all that, because it's just easier to do that instead of trying to like make something that's kind of unique for like certain playstyles. Like it's not as common to like have to, because yeah, the basic formula works, and I'm fine with that. Don't change the basic formula, but try and like innovate, try and add new stuff to play around with the basic formula, like stuff that works around the premise of an FPS, and just the nature of like how it's used with say like like the squad-based games, like the sort of like free-for-all like Call of Duty type stuff, or even the Battle Royale stuff. Like add stuff that's more unique than just the status quo, just the norm.
It's little tidbits here and there, like the collectibles.
The Tesla car.
Yeah, but I need to get some extra bullets. I think you have to buy something at some point in this game, so I'll come back to that after this.
It's the little tidbits here and there, like collectibles and lore pickups that show you that just because they have more of everything around doesn't mean that it's inspired or being made for a purpose.
Yeah, and it's like just because these types of games are being made more often doesn't mean each example is like the best it could be, because like there's stuff that you could do. Or also there's the sequel break, by the way. Like
it might just literally be a case of quantity over quality.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like not all of them are like as like it's gonna take a good try. It's not all of them are like as like ludicrously like horrible and like uninspired. But, oh yeah, that worked. Yeah, see, that's the end. Like with sequence broke, that's the end bit right there.
Damn.
Nice.
But yeah, it's.
Like, I'm not gonna be happy that they made 10 more types of the type of game that I like if they're not gonna be good.
Yeah, like that's the problem. Just because all these types of games are being made now doesn't mean that all of them are being made well, and it actually oversaturates that market and becomes a problem when like this whole thing is flooded with like not good games to play.
There's also this strange thing where like AAA games and modern gaming in general has like a bottom line. Oh, he has 4 eyes. Actually, he has 6 eyes, because he has glasses. Did you see like his like irises behind his irises?
I am in search of a hip young star.
I was trying to listen to you, and then when you like flipped to talking about him, I just forgot everything you had just said other than that.
Well, I was saying like modern games and AAA games, because I guess companies are so huge now, they have enough of a budget and they have enough of like people who are game designers still have enough talent and care that they still have like a bottom line of making games well, but they make certain parts of it well. Like, it's hard to explain. Like, you can have a shitty game, but like it's shitty for other reasons beyond like the gameplay can be good and it can have genuinely good, like The Last of Us, great graphics, great game design. Like, you have good gunplay. You have like it feels good to play. It's just the story shit. So it's like where it's like this weird bottom line where you actually can assure quality through the game design and the gameplay, but then there's just no care for anything else.
Yeah, and then when it becomes like more about focusing on like another atmosphere, like the gameplay was good, but they want to focus heavily more on the narrative over the gameplay, then that becomes an issue where like, okay, we had really good gameplay, but now they're telling us to not focus on it that much anymore, or like just negate it because we want to focus more on making just specifically the story better.
It's like it could also be like Far Cry, where like Far Cry 3 made something that people apparently like really stuck with people. It really resonated. People really like it. And then they made 4 and 5, which, whether you like it or not, like people will, you know, it's contested on whether people like it. I like both of them, and I think they're really good. And so it's like when you make Far Cry 6, it's pretty much assured that they're gonna make a game that feels good and plays good because, like, you know, 4 and 5 have good gunplay and 3 does too. But like, by the time you're getting to 6, it's like, okay, what are you doing? Are you making something that's good? Like, is the world good? Are the characters good?
Yeah, or is there gonna be the same thing where it's like it's just another dictator with like a cult or something like that? That like you like everything goes wrong right out the gate and you're just fucking stuck there.
Well, yeah.
Like it's the same to expect, but after a while, it's like there's ways you can shake it up to get we're in that same scenario, but you don't have to get there for the same beats and have it be like the same like stakes of like how you got there. Like again,
yeah, so
there's ways you could mix it differently. Like for example, the Far Cry example, like you could have that instead of, you know, you get like fucking stuck there and like sabotage, have it be that you know this is going to go south fast, so instead you're kind of like infiltrating and prepping, almost like an MGS style like approach, you know. What if there's like a way that you kind of like just get in there ahead of time, fully aware that it's just gonna go down, and you have to just kind of like slowly build up that resistance. Instead, it's like always like you go there, think it's easy to arrest the guy, something goes wrong almost immediately, like that. Something goes wrong almost immediately, and then it's just we're here now. We're stuck here, but we're just a one-man army. And like,
so like what I'm saying is
again,
like
there's other ways to approach stuff like this.
With making Far Cry 6, it's like they know they have the same engine they've been using. They know they have the same team, so they're assured that they're gonna make a game that feels good. But like, are they gonna try more when they actually are making these new installations? Are they gonna keep going?
Yeah, are they going to like innovate like gameplay or like trying to do stuff that's not gonna be like too invasive?
Yeah, because they don't have to innovate because they already have the engine that works. They already know it works well because they had the previous game that played well.
Again, I'm thinking from a creative aspect. You can keep making games like, you know, follow a trend, but you can keep innovating the trend. That's the problem that's kind of like glossed over, is that there's ways you can still innovate stuff like this with the right team and the right people. It's just that there's not a lot of care towards it because it's like, oh, we just have an assured, like, either an assured success or in some cases an assured failure, which in that case, it's like, why would people want to make a game that fails? Why would someone want to make a game that, like, doesn't try anything new and think people want to keep playing it? Yes, there will be some people, but not everyone. Like, again, creativity can be stifled, and, like, while it's to say, like, it's not always there, there's, again, yeah, a difference between something that's just made for a status quo and something that's actually trying to innovate a popular genre. Like, we just live in, like, an age where, like, a lot of genres aren't really being innovated as much as they were before, because we found something that works and can be replicated, therefore everyone's just doing that. And like it becomes a problem when
it gets a pass because it meets a bottom line of at least assured like good gameplay.
Yeah, and it's like it gets to be a problem when you want to like have something interesting to create or play to stand out, but it doesn't because it's just meeting a status quo. Like
I just personally was. I kind of feel like I shouldn't be talking about modern games at all. I'm just like, this is the most comfortable I've been with modern games.
No, that's understandable. Like that's
like,
completely
as
valid.
I've grown up. Because
Like,
I remember in the late in the early 2010s when I finally got my PS3, I was like, wow. I was like, this is like wonderful because I was entering this generation that was like almost over. So most of the games for the generation were already out when I was getting into it, and so I got like this experience of like experiencing all this at once. But like there was just a huge saturation of the same brown, crappy first-person shooter.
Like the puke filter, basically.
But that's
nowadays I really like those games.
I think like that generation is kind of part of it.
But
It kind of started with the Xbox 360.
but like with PS4 and Xbox One, I think like even though I've kind of warmed up to like a lot of those basic FPSs because they're still a lot of them are still just linear story games, or just fun shooters. Once open world became the thing to be, I don't think I'll ever be able to get into half the shit that came out this last generation.
What game started that? Far Cry was one of the ones that started before it was popular, and they're gonna keep going.
Open world today, it's very likely
GTA 5.
Well, it's also very.
Oh yeah, people say GTA 3 was the one that started the open world.
Yeah,
craze.
but like GTA 4 and 5,
I think
Red Dead
actually,
Redemption, really.
I think the more modern open world craze
I'm
now,
saying the one that started it.
The more modern open world craze now is Breath of the Wild because everyone's trying to do that. Like you see that with like again like with Halo trying to do it with Halo Infinite. Like even in marketing, like how they promoted Infinite, how they promoted like just like Sonic Frontiers. There's always that shot of like the protagonist just standing on a cliff looking over like their view. It's just a meme at this point, but yeah, that's like what everyone's trying to do.
I still see like I see issues with the patterns and like this. I honestly think like the stuff that developers latch onto to copy now is like it's so uncreative. But I'm just at the same time there's so many indie devs now that I feel like there's like a balance where like well at least all these games are also still coming out.
Oh no, that's fine. I agree.
For me personally, I also feel like just because like
oh wow,
I don't actually agree with the whole like just because it's indie it's good because I think a lot of indie developers
obviously
also fall into the same trap of like just trying to do the same things. There's so many indie games I see that are like
what?
Well, isn't that the big joke that like the indie game is like if you're playing a modern indie game, chances are you're just playing an Earthbound clone or some shit.
No, it's basically the wacky Earthbound inspired RPG sort of like
which like Undertale did well, kind of like it's not.
No,
I'm not saying it did well, kind of. I'm saying it did well. It's just that it kind of it's a little it stands out a little more than just being an Earthbound clone.
Yeah. It was because it wasn't the game that like pioneered it per se because like there were other games before like say Off was one and then like Yume Nikki and like all these other types of games that were they're small. They were smaller at their time and are more like looked upon fondly because of just the nature of those games and it was yes inspired by Earthbound, but it had a lot more of a uniqueness to it. With like they wanted to go into like horror topics in some degree, or in Undertale's case, it was more about a
like
meta. It was it was like a meta aspect. But either way, it's like there are trends, yes, but again, for a lot of those games that people mock on, they actually are trying to at least like differentiate from. Well, now the thing is like not even saying like it's an Earthbound-inspired RPG, it's an Undertale-inspired RPG. Like that's the thing. Now people are.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it was such a good example that it kind of like
became the example.
The next step.
Like it was such a good example, it became the example.
It's like Undertale wanted to kind of borrow from Earthbound, but Undertale was so good that now people want to borrow from Undertale.
Yeah.
And so when the next game that comes out that was Undertale-inspired, it'll be the one that people want to copy.
Yeah, and then that's just the thing. Like again, it's trend setting. It doesn't matter if it's AAA or indie. There's trends, and there's like. There can be indie studios that innovate, yes, but there can also be indie studios and games that don't really and just trying to follow trends. Because again, there are plenty of indie games that hop on that multiplayer, basically content bait sort of trend, where it's like these are mass multiplayer games done just to get people who like make let's plays and stream to just play, and like that's a trend that does follow because again, like you see how popular battle royales are, you see how popular stuff like say Among Us is and all that. Like you see that there's like even with the indie scene, there are trends that are followed that become like oversaturated. Like not even indie is safe because like despite
you mentioned Fall Guys.
Like Fall Guys, yeah, Fall Guys is another example.
I didn't know if you guys already said that.
I didn't. But I said Among Us, but like Fall Guys is another example. Yeah, they're following. The example of mass multiplayer game that's just done for
Phasmophobia
content. Yeah, Phasmophobia is another one. Yeah, again, indie's not safe from that whole thing either. Like indie games can fall in that same trend because
the reason it's important to focus on indie is because they're the ones that aren't as trapped in like the corporate
they're more
like stifled like environment.
Yeah,
so you're gonna get more gems out of indie. For all the schlock where people copy it, it's just that like you're still gonna get those really good ones that are even better than AAA.
Yeah, it's just more of the like,
and they're not as abused as like corporate workers either.
Yeah, it's more the issue with like it's just an issue in general, like indie or you know, like indie or like AAA, you're going to have this issue of trends and like how far someone wants to follow. Because again, like independent games can have the same sort of trends. Like they could fall into the same sort of trap of like trying to be stuck following.
What if you stood closer to it?
Yeah, I'm thinking that too.
Oh wait, but then a missile. Oh, okay, that's good. Yeah, but as we learned from Patrick Bateman, it said that, have you ever heard of Huey Lewis on the news is hip to be square? It tells us about the importance of trends. And, actually, what does he say?
I don't remember.
The importance of trends and the lessons of conformity, I think is what he said. But it's okay, because he's the bad guy, so what he says is bad.
Yeah, well, like bottom line, because this discussion's going on for a bit, the bottom line is basically just like trends are just inevitable media. It's just,
I mean, it's just
human
nature.
And there's some trends that, you know,
Patterns,
it's okay to like, well, no, it's okay, and it's okay to like certain trends that, you know, appeal to you. That's completely fine. Like DJ, you brought that up. Like you liked a lot of those like games that we probably complain about, and that's completely fine. Like you're okay to like those, and like I'm not gonna hate you for it.
Yeah, I like the brown ugly shooters too, because I like Grand Theft Auto 4.
Yeah,
I used to hate them.
Yeah, it's just a matter of like, you know, like
that's
like,
when they were. That's when they were overfilling the market. In a few years, we'll probably be like, you know, maybe I'll play a couple rounds of Fortnite. It's still, the servers are still going.
Fortnite. It's not like it's a bad game. It's just.
I've been wanting to get back into PUBG because I played a couple
again,
matches.
it's a trend follower game, so like, you know, they're like following stuff that's
yeah,
like,
that was weird too, because it seemed like Fortnite was copying PUBG, but everyone gave Fortnite all the credit, because I guess it was like the Earthbound Undertale thing.
Yeah, where it's like
Fortnite
it's being made into this because of, you know, PUBG, but it's become sort of the example now because of how popular it was.
Well, I think that settles it.
Yeah, that's.
We should go back to the RPG Maker era.
I mean, yeah.
Eve.
We should not
Mad
go back
Father.
to the RPG Maker.
Yeah.
But you got such classics as Eve, Mad Father.
You've got
Owl
such
Oni?
classics as 500 billion bad games.
No, dude, because for every 500 billion,
You got such classics
you have Owl Oni.
as the Steam ports of the first 6 Final Fantasy games.
oh, yeah. It's pretty much
No,
worse
but
RPG
that
Maker.
wasn't the like era. You know, that came out after the era. I'm talking about like
I think that
2012.
was
I'm
before.
talking about like 2013 PewDiePie, like Eve and Mad Father,
Yeah, like
and Owl Oni.
yeah, and like
Those are
even
the
stuff
only
like.
three I can say.
Well, there's also stuff like there's like Off, there's Yume Nikki, there's even more recent ones like a game called Amori was one that's like those RPG Maker that was supposed to come out in that era, but took until like I think Christmas of last year.
No, I don't mean games like Off and Amori like that look creative RPG era. I mean like
I have
like
no idea
default-
why the game is just screen tearing
default
so
stock-
much worse today than it was yesterday.
I'm
I
talking
didn't
about
even
like
notice
default
it
stock
yesterday.
image era RPG Maker, like generic using the default images.
Okay, yeah,
Like
yeah.
default assets. That's what I meant. See, it was a joke. It was just a bad joke.
Yeah, either way, it's
Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't really know how to end this conversation. Let's talk about Ratchet and Clank.
yeah.